If you're looking to improve your aim, then make sure to check out Control Freak and use the code OGXRAYZ to get 10% off all the products. Link in the description below. Yo guys, what's up? It's XRAYZ. Welcome back to another Call of Duty video. Now today we're actually going to be talking about Call of Duty 2020. So we're going to be talking about some leaks and info. This is courtesy of the Gaming Revolution. Now he has been doing a lot of leaks in the past. He actually fell on some information that someone gave him, and he has since been able to get this source to be credible. He has been confirmed by a few other sources he has. And so I take this with a little bit of credibility. Obviously, with a game being out a year and a half, a lot of this could change. This is all very preliminary stuff or info for COD 2020. And so keep this with a grain of salt. This is mostly to give you guys information on what the mindset and thinking is behind what's happening with Call of Duty 2020, especially with what we know is going on now with Sledgehammer Games and Raven now taking a back door, and Treyarch basically coming in and trying to fix the situation and make a game for next year, which is insane because normally they would have this year by also next year and then the year after to work on their game, and now they only have this year, next year, and then they have to release that next year as well, which is absolutely insane. So let's go ahead and talk about this. Again, this was info coming from the Gaming Revolution. This guy's a pretty legit guy. He has had sources in the past. He's done correct leaks in the past, so take it with a grain of salt, but I'd say it's just pretty good stuff here. So before we jump into the information, guys, if you guys could do me a huge favor and drop a like on the video, guys, it's so appreciated. And if you are new, if you want to see more content like this, I'm going to have a lot more Call of Duty Black Ops 4, COD 2019, and 2020 news and info coming. So make sure you subscribe and have those notifications on. Super important. But anyways, let's jump into the information. So let's jump into it. So before we talk about the actual leaks let's talk about what exactly is going on, because this kind of all sets up the mindset and what's going on behind the construction and design work of COD 2020, because Sledgehammer Games and Raven were the ones who were supposed to work and execute on having a game coming out next year. So obviously we know Sledgehammer Games ended up taking a big hit. They were supposed to be the ones to make this next game, and then they actually ended up taking a back seat to Raven Software because they lost a ton of people. A lot of their staff actually ended up leaving and going to work for Michael Condrey once again, only he's working at 2K now and doing some sort of game for 2K. So for you guys that, you know, this actually goes back pretty back. So we had Call of Duty World War II come out. The game didn't really necessarily launch that great. Michael Condrey, Glenn Schofield ended up leaving and getting promoted, which usually is a sign of, you know, something happened. They needed to get those guys up and out. So they got promoted, and then they ended up leaving Activision a few months later. I think about a year later, they actually ended up leaving. But since then, the Sledgehammer Games team was led by Aaron, who actually I think did a really awesome job with what he was given there with the studio, and they really turned Call of Duty World War II around. It was a really fun game by the end of it. But anyways, moving on from there, as they were working still on Sledgehammer Games, you know, for Call of Duty World War II, they ended up having a lot of their developers actually end up leaving. They actually ended up leaving and working once again with Michael Condrey, and so because of that, their staff got smaller and smaller and smaller, and obviously, if their staff keeps getting smaller, they can't really work on a full-fledged Call of Duty game. So then by that point, Activision was like, yo, we need to get Raven to actually be the lead this time around. And so Raven was in charge. Now, for you guys that are unaware of Raven Software, they're the guys who have worked on Blackout. They're the guys who have worked on Modern Warfare Remastered. They're actually the ones who made that game. They also worked and made Call of Duty Online in China. And so these guys have a lot of history, and they've worked on Call of Duty for a long time. They've had their hands in a lot of games, I think all the way dating back to Call of Duty Ghosts. So these guys know what they're doing, and this was going to be their first shot, their big shot here to make their own game. Now, apparently what ended up happening after this, though, is that, you know, Sledgehammer Games and Raven Software just were not able to mesh well, and because of that, it was a complete mess. Activision had to step in and say, you know, you guys aren't working well together. Clearly, you guys need someone else to step in and fix this, and so they asked Treyarch, like, hey guys, we need you to step in. Raven and Software and Sledgehammer Games are now going to be the ones who report to you. They're the ones who are going to be assisting you, and now you guys are in charge of COD 2020. So I'm kind of still in that zone where I'm a little bit worried because they have only a year and a half to work on this, but at the same time, they have the full attention of Raven, they have the full attention of Sledgehammer Games, albeit a smaller group there, and they're going to have 3 studios working on one game, which hopefully they end up being able to deliver on. I mean, we saw Black Ops 4, it was incomplete when it came, so I mean, now less time, I don't know, man. It's going to be very difficult, but I wanted to talk about that. Now, since then, how is this going to affect Black Ops 4? We talked about this in a separate video. We might be seeing stuff like that second season that was rumored, and even there's like game code now found that says DLC 5, you know, obviously Zombies Chronicles 2 and stuff like that. A lot of that is probably going to be scrapped, or if it's not scrapped, maybe saved for next year when Call of Duty's new Black Ops game comes out. And I think that's what's basically going to happen. I think there's going to be a lot less stuff going on in Black Ops 4, which understandably so. Now they got to gear up, do a 180, and work on their next game immediately, as opposed to playing out this year and then kind of thinking about what they want to do with their next game. So it's very difficult. But anyways, now with that out of the way, with the little backstory of why this is happening and why Treyarch is taking over, let's talk about COD 2020. What are they thinking so far? What's the idea, the planning behind it? And this is what's going on. And again, huge shout out to the gaming revolution for these leaks. All right, so next year, it's going to be another Black Ops game. It's not going to be Black Ops 5, though. It looks like they're going to be doing and taking a page out of the Modern Warfare series, in that this is going to be a reboot of this series, and it's not going to be a continuation. So it's going to be a reboot. It might have the same thing that we're seeing in Modern Warfare, where we have a recurring characters, like maybe, you know, we obviously have Sergeant Frank Woods and stuff like that, Mason, stuff like that. So Black Ops 5, we're going to call it for now, or whatever they end up calling it in the future, we'll just call it Black Ops 5 for now, is not a continuation, but instead a reboot. And that's what's going on with that. So we already talked about how Raven and Sledgehammer Games are helping, and it looks like they're going to be using them as each one of those studios works specifically on one thing of the game, whether that be the multiplayer or Blackout or, you know, zombies, etc. Each one of them is going to be focused on one thing and working on that, which I think is a smart move. If they're all trying to do everything all at once, it might get crazy and it might become a mess, just like, you know, the reason why Treyarch had to step in. So as for why Call of Duty 2020 ended up having to go to Treyarch and what the actual problem was that Raven had with Sledgehammer Games, it looks like Raven actually wanted to do more of a gritty game, kind of like Modern Warfare, more realistic, more gritty, more, you know, very gray area. And it looks like Sledgehammer Games wanted to do something more, I don't want to say futuristic, but a little bit more colorful. Think of Advanced Warfare, not in the advanced and future mechanic stuff, but more of the, you know, colorful. They had really colorful maps. They had a lot of outfits and customization that was very bright and fun and out there. And so each one of them had a different perspective, and it kind of was what imploded the whole thing and why they weren't able to work well together. So we might be seeing some stuff from each. We might actually end up seeing some colorful stuff, fun stuff out there, but also very gritty, because they were actually working on a Vietnam War game. So a lot of that stuff might be scrapped, but the like bare bones skeleton is actually going to be used by Treyarch, because at this point they need it. They need the stuff they were working on, the assets and stuff, for it to work. At this point, it looks like Activision is actually pretty excited for Call of Duty Modern Warfare, and they're actually pretty excited about this next COD 2020. They really want both of these games to do very well. They've got definitely studios who can deliver. Infinity Ward had a couple of slip-ups there, but they have the old team back, and they got a really solid game apparently coming out this year. And Treyarch, with the assistance of Sledgehammer Games and Raven, could really deliver as well, especially with this new engine that they have made for Modern Warfare. But because they're so excited, they're actually hoping that not only Modern Warfare, but also Black Ops 5 will have multi-year support. Now, I think that that's what they were planning on doing with Black Ops 4, but obviously, like I said, this whole mess started happening, and they ended up needing Treyarch to step in. And so I think the plan was for Treyarch to have that second season for Black Ops 4 have more content, support it multi-years, but that ended up getting scrapped or, you know, pushed or, you know, just kind of slowed down. And I think that's probably what we're going to see with Modern Warfare, multi-year support, maybe even also for here Black Ops 5, which I think is cool. But that still raises the question of what exactly is going to happen with COD 2021. Like, who's going to work on that? That's actually kind of scary. But yeah, that's what they're hoping for, multi-year support on Modern Warfare and Black Ops 5. The next thing they said is that the Black Ops 5 game will be using the new Modern Warfare engine, and this is actually the standard now for all future games. All future games will be using this new engine. I went into detail the other day about what this engine is like and if it's really that good and is it really new. So check out that video in case you guys missed it, but just keep this in mind. All future games will be using this new engine, including Black Ops 5. What about Blackout? Is that going to be coming back? Is that going to get multi-support? Well, it turns out that at the moment, Blackout will be getting remastered and coming to Black Ops 5, and Raven is actually working exclusively on that. They actually are, you know, kind of porting over all the stuff that was in Blackout with this new engine that, you know, was made for Modern Warfare. So we might be seeing kind of a Blackout 2.0, might be very similar in like the actual map and stuff, but I think if I had to guess, I'd say it's like Blackout remastered with this brand new engine, and it's apparently going to be coming back, and it's planned to be coming back with Black Ops 5, which is actually pretty cool. The other thing they said is that they're actually kind of thinking about making this a free-to-play portion of the game now, so we might be seeing Blackout as finally free-to-play. We did have some kind of free-to-play aspects to it currently, where they had that 1 month where it was free-to-play for everyone, but we might actually now see, just in general, this will be a free-to-play for everyone, which I think is a smart move if they do it. Now, the thing also is that because they are using this new engine and everything looks more photorealistic, they're actually thinking about, with Blackout, having it compete directly with Fortnite and Apex, because they want it to be gritty and, you know, kind of darker and more realistic and maybe even more tactical. So think very upgraded looking PUBG, I'm thinking, but it's still going to be Blackout. So I think that's actually pretty exciting. So it might be more of a gritty, realistic take on the Battle Royale. Obviously, we saw Blackout. It's really popular. I think a lot of people really like it. If it was free to play, that'd be awesome. And it looks like it might actually be free to play. So we'll definitely see about that, but that's what it looks like right now. Blackout remastered coming, and it might be more of a gritty, really kind of more realistic version looking, which I think is pretty awesome. So we know that Raven is working on Blackout, already mentioned that, but it looks like Sledgehammer Games is going to be working specifically on multiplayer. Now, we do know Treyarch and Sledgehammer Games have different philosophies, just like Infinity Ward has their own philosophy on what multiplayer should be like, and they have their own take on it. Some people like, Treyarch's version of multiplayer. Other people really love Infinity Ward's, and then there's a group that really likes Sledgehammer Games. So it's going to be difficult having a different studio who has a different style of multiplayer being the one working on multiplayer. So obviously Treyarch has final say, but they can't be working on everything all at once because they have a year and a half. So they have to kind of rely on these studios. So Sledgehammer Games apparently is going to be the one working on multiplayer. Now, whether this means they're just working on guns or, you know, working on maps, maybe just that, and maybe like the movement and the gunplay and stuff like that will be all up to Treyarch, but that's what it looks like right now, guys. So just keep that in mind. As for Treyarch, they're going to be working on campaign and zombies. Now, for the campaign, like I said earlier, Raven and Sledgehammer Games were working on a more gritty, realistic Vietnam War, and it looks like that also will be the theme for Treyarch's next game. It's going to be a reboot of the Black Ops story, but now it's going to be set with a new Vietnam War era, and it's going to be very gritty and crazy, and they're going to be working almost exclusively on that. Again, Raven, Blackout, Sledgehammer Games multiplayer, and then Treyarch will be focused on campaign and then also zombies. Apparently, they are thinking about having seasons very similar to Black Ops 4 and also what they're planning on doing in Modern Warfare for the multiplayer. So that's a little bit more extra. I know this is kind of all over the place, but I'm trying to get you guys the information for multiplayer. That also is what they're working on. All right, let's talk about zombies, because this is kind of the big one. We saw that they had a new story going, the Chaos storyline, and after they did the Chaos storyline, it kind of didn't really sit well with people. People weren't really that happy, and they ended up actually scrapping 2 of the maps and like postponing them. And instead, they were going to go with 2 Ether maps to finish off. So DLC 3 is an Ether map. DLC 4 is an Ether map, which is, for you guys that aren't aware of what that is, it's basically the old storyline we had in the previous Call of Duties for Black Ops. And so because of that, it looks like this next Call of Duty, the zombies will be a complete reboot as well. We're not going to see any crazy stuff there. The storyline for Chaos is gone, if we had to assume. Probably no more Chaos storyline after this. As for the Ether storyline, if they do use that, it's going to be rebooted. And they're actually not sure on that either. Who's going to be the main characters here? They're actually thinking that maybe it's either going to be the campaign characters. So the campaign characters might go into this and kind of do a storyline where it's all zombies, or they might be reusing the original 4 and kind of doing a new story that is completely separated and not tied to the other storyline. And let's be completely honest here, the Ether storyline got so convoluted and so crazy that I don't think anyone fully understands what the storyline is anymore. We got parallel universes, multiple crews, and it got really crazy. So if anything, I'm actually kind of excited for a reboot where it's not tied to the old stuff, and it might be the original 4 again, and it might actually be, you know, a completely more centered, realistic story. Now, as for that, that's kind of the big thing here. There's not going to be any fantastical elements in this new version of Zombies, this reboot that they're thinking about. There's not going to be dragons like in Gorakrovi. There's not going to be a giant robot like in Origins. You're not going to be fighting apothecons or giant apothecons. You know, this is all going to be more realistic. Obviously, zombies, you can't really get realistic with zombies because there's already an element of fantasy there, but they're not going to go super crazy and over the top anymore, and they're thinking more of a Nocturne Totem, more of a Mob of the Dead kind of scary, unsettling vibe. And I think he was even mentioning the Gaming Revolution, that his source is telling him that they're even thinking maybe like a Saw type thing where characters just kind of end up somewhere, they don't really know each other, they get to know each other, and they're trying to piece stuff together. So it'll be interesting, but that's kind of crazy, man. Multiplayer, we already got there. Sledgehammer Games is working on that. Campaign, Treyarch is working on that, making it more gritty, and it's going to be reusing some of the stuff from the original Raven and Sledgehammer Games assets. For Zombies, complete reboot, which is kind of crazy, and it's going to be more realistic, less like over the top, and more gritty and scary and unsettling. And then obviously, like we said, Blackout getting remastered and possibly also coming. So again, none of this is set. They're not already, you know, months ahead working on stuff. This is all the stuff that they're thinking, what the ideology and thinking and theory and just game plan is at the moment. But this is everything that has been leaked so far by whoever this insider or source is. But anyways, guys, thank you so much for watching the video. Hopefully you guys did enjoy it. If you did, drop a like on the video, guys. It's super appreciated and incredibly helpful. And if you are new to the channel, if you want to see even more videos like these, I'm going to have a lot more Call of Duty Black Ops 4 news, info, rumors, leaks, and more coming. So make sure you guys are subscribed and have those notifications on so you don't miss a single upload. If you guys want to support the channel directly, you guys can actually do so by checking out my channel memberships. You get access to early content, exclusive videos, special badges, and more. So go ahead and check that out only if you are willing and able to. If you want to talk about anything, Twitter is the best place to do so. I am constantly talking over there. So go ahead, give me a follow at OGXRAYZ. I'll have a link down below. You guys have an amazing day. Take care. I'm out. Peace.